Yeah. Just beautiful piece.
Very much so. And then, it's that second circle, which comes through the hem of the dress, then goes up into the little birds, and it takes you around.
Yeah, and it feels like, it's like sort of.
So it's constantly swirling around.
Yeah.
Very, very nicely done.
I really like the composition of it.
Wonderful composition.
Yeah.
And then this one is Eternal Hope.
Yes.
Yeah.
The future.
I did not get as much out of this from the small image that we had. Seeing it now, you realize how much depth there is to
all this.
The wonderful
This detail.
Yes.
I couldn't figure out the orientation the first time I looked at the image. I was like, what's going on here?
Exactly.
But now it's coming a little bit more, a lot more.
I looked at the title and said, okay, hope, all right. I can see from the child that there's hope, but then the description told me that there was the hand of God.
Yeah.
And so I saw it. I was like, okay.
Yeah, and he used a lot of the Assyrian letters, and just showing a little bit of our culture and history in the background. So that kind of becomes that hope, the hand that's holding the child.
I wrote down little notes to myself while I was looking at these, and what I thought of when I saw this was Dali's hypercubic crucifixion. Right.
Right.
Because it's that
the angle,
forced perspective that, and so you get, the.
It's a good comparison.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, from the perspective point, I keep on thinking, so if that's going to be the hand of God, then what does the perspective mean for us as we look down on top of this baby? It could have been a formal portrait, or it could have been elongated horizontally, but we are then looking down upon this baby's head and seeing it latched on as we are kind of have an inside view on, becomes a very kind of emotional perspective, which is an interesting.
Also universal, because all of us at one point were this baby.
Right.
100%,
And we've all held babies probably. It's very interesting.
Well, this one here is Resurgence.
Yeah.
Which when I saw it, I was immediately struck by the dynamism of the composition.
Yeah, it just linked out.
It does, and so it's very powerful. I love the way he did the castle. It just it gives you another one. It reflects what's going on with the arrow.
So for someone like me that came from this culture, I could feel the pain. Like I could really feel what he's saying, because like what he's trying to say here, that the hunter became hunted. So the lioness obviously represents like the nation, like the Assyrian nation. That's what he meant by it. And you see all the falling Babylon and the history all around it. And then he's the sphere. He's been hit with a spear, which means the culture. It's been in pain for many years. So, but he's actually removing that. The lioness is removing that and continuing forward. Like she does not care about that pain. Like she's struggling, but she's still determined to move forward. So, I thought it was really interesting when I saw it, and seeing it in person, honestly, really beautiful, because I seen it in a picture. It didn't obviously no justice. No, when you see it in front of you, and especially the skill that he worked in.
And I just look at it like formally too. Like I like this diagonal. I mean, diagonal always gives you a certain dynamism. Dramatic. It's very dramatic. Hello, I'm Corey Postilion. I'm an artist, a curator, writer. I've done a lot of different things as an artist, and also a teacher. I've taught a long time at Columbia College. For me, it's always the impact of the image itself, before I even know the backstory, the narrative behind it. It's the what we would call the aesthetic impact of the work. And that usually comes down to how the work is actually organized on the canvas or whatever. The composition, the colors, all the formal elements. So that's really what I look at first. And then I look at what is the narrative and how well is that connected to the visual image. Does the artist really pull this off? If you don't know what the narrative is, can you get some sense of what's really going on in the picture? The winner, especially, kind of looks to the future in a very, very good way. And some of the others, some talk about the past and the destruction that occurred in the past, and others look at kind of serenity, a very serene image. I'm thinking of the woman with the butterflies. So that's, I thought they were all beautifully executed, really skillful. Well, with the baby, the winner, the skillful drawing initially of the piece. I mean, very difficult perspective, view of this child. The other things, the resurgence, the one that's pretty much black and white, charcoal, the strength of the composition, the diagonal of the castle tower, and the way the elements really work to create that aesthetic charge.
Hi, my name's Britton Bertrand. I am currently the director of a gallery here in Chicago called Carrie Seacrest. Past lives, I've done a lot of teaching at the School of the Art Institute in the Arts Administration Department. I've worked in different art education nonprofits and other kind of philanthropical organizations, and curator and all kinds of good stuff. The criteria that I was interested in is kind of seeing images that kind of helped me understand the culture of the Assyrian people in a contemporary manner. It was kind of an intuitive look and understanding about where they're from, what they represent, and what they hope for in the future. I can kind of intuit a sort of empathy that the work kind of protrudes out, and it really helps me understand that they're looking and striving for something that is a hopeful entity. They've got just an incredible way of representing context, almost giving the viewer a bit of a dialogue of back and forth, and that really exemplifies this idea of hope for me. I think each of these works are really strong in their own right, and when I look at works of art, I always like to look for the artist's hand at play. So it can make it seem much more approachable and understandable. For example, the hairs in the baby's head, or the strikes of white charcoal in the work Resurgence to my right, and just the nature of me almost being in the same image as the woman in the circle.
Hi, I'm Gregory Mejia, but also known as Gregorio Mejia. That's the name I was born with. I'm a Mexican-American artist born in Mexico, Piedras Negras, Coahuila. Came up to the United States at the age of 2, and then settled here in the Midwest. Started first out in Gary, Indiana, then came to Chicago. When I was here in Chicago, I decided that I needed a very good place to study illustration. So I went to the American Academy, went there for 3 years, got an associate's degree, went on to Columbia College, and have worked in commercial art and various other jobs over the years. I am an exhibiting artist, generally show in group shows with groups here in Chicago. My criteria, the very first thing I think of is when you're looking at a painting or a drawing, a work of art, it has to have visual impact, number one. And so that's what I'm looking for. If it attracts my eye, then right there you've got me. So then I become more critical after that, looking at the composition, the design, color elements. They all play a factor in how I judge a piece of work. I think pretty much all of the artists seem to embody that idea of hope. Regardless of the technical skill that they had, they all seem to have, they all seem to express an idea of hope. Some of them were able to deliver it in a much more dynamic manner, but that was the only difference. I really got the sense of hope from all of them.
Hi, my name is Rani Stefan. I'm an Assyrian American artist born in Baghdad, Iraq, 1981. I came to the United States. I was very young. I was only 10 years old. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan. Knowing that, growing up when I was a teenager, I liked drawing a lot. And that continued through my high school years. And I also studied at the College for Creative Studies. And I've been a professional artist for the past about 15 years. I've done many projects privately and also like in public, sculptural work and also paintings. Honestly, like visual impact is what I really look for first. I see that if I see the work speaking to me, and then I kind of realize, this is the kind of work that I would like to see. But what is it trying to say? Then I read the narrative of the piece, and I see does that kind of work together with the painting, with the technique. So it kind of goes all together. But first, I would look for the visual impact, and then the narrative, and even the composition and how artists try to put it together. And this is where I kind of try to assess the work. All three of these pieces were phenomenal. It was very hard to choose. And especially for someone like me that comes from this culture, I could almost relate to these artists and see what they felt in each piece. And each one of these pieces were very special to those artists. Our culture has been going through struggle for hundreds and hundreds of years. And then now to see these artists represent their work and hope. And then this culture does need hope. So maybe a little bit in that sense, like not understanding where the artists come from, opposed to the other judges, I kind of felt a little bit closer to these pieces because I know that I know what the artist tried to say. Each one of these pieces was phenomenal. Each one the composition was amazing. Each story was it was telling you hope. Every single one I saw was hope, and I felt each single one. But obviously, we had to choose one that was that represented closest to our heart, and it was the one with the baby. So that was the one I actually chose for the first.